So basically, what is the IQ assessment? The IQ assessment is a just kind of a little scoring system to help you work on your influencer quotient. So how do I, how is my systems? How are my community? How are those kind of things? So really all it is a benchmark for you to determine where you're kind of starting. So if your score is really low to start with, don't worry about it, okay? It is just basically giving you a roadmap to improve on those scores and to get more now business, more people out of your database, out of your SOI, to close that loyalty gap, okay? Keep these scores. Once you take the IQ, it'll send you an email. It'll tell you what your score is and what your answers were. It will not send you the graph though. So if you're a visual person like me and you need the graph, just take a snippet of it or save the page or do something so you can kind of look at that and see where it goes. Now, what we are going to do is, here, let me show you this first. So basically what I did was I pulled up the IQ with all the questions. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
Okay. So what I did is I pulled up all the questions and I put them into 7 different categories, loosely based on what the IQ categories were. So the first one was ecosystem, and then systems, and then marketing, brand, wealth, community, and education. I only had 1 in education, so I might redo that one. Everybody understands what ecosystem is, right? Does anybody not understand what ecosystem is? And you can put it in the chat if you want. If not, I'll move on. Anybody want me to explain it? Let me put it that way.
I would like you to.
I want you to explain it.
Okay.
Yeah, you can explain it.
So when you're in the system and it says ecosystem, that is your sphere of vendors. That is your people who are going to help you with the clients in the whole process. So lenders, inspectors, septic people, sewer scope people. It's basically going to be your business to business group. So who do you go to when you need to refer somebody out, right? So that's your ecosystem, and that's kind of how we feed off each other. We get everything going, and that is your team, right? Basically, it's your team. So you should, 2 things. One is you should have all of your ecosystem members written down on a piece of paper. 2, you might even want to put it on your web page. Now, what I would do is I would not make that public. I would hide that page. And when people called you and said, hey, do you have a painter? I would say, yeah, I got a painter. Let me send you a link to my website so you can get that information. And then I would send them the link, and then that would take them to a website page that's hidden, although it would take them to my web page, so they get used to going to my web page, right? So that's kind of how I would do that. So for example, the first question is, I have systems and processes in place to help manage and track my business income, expenses, and profit. Now that is totally a system. So what does that system look like? We use the CTE system, the Commitment to Excellence system, and you can use whatever you want. I don't care if it's Quicken, I don't care if it's an Excel spreadsheet or something that helps you keep track of those items. CTE is easy because the income, the expenses, and the profit are all in there, and it all generates automatically once you set it up. So if you want more information on that, just send me an email and I'll send it to you. So what are you going to create around that system? So, give yourself a 1 to a 4 and then move on from there. So number 2 is I have a system in place which solidifies my value to my customers and keeps them loyal. So that's really a marketing thing. So what does your touch campaign look like? What does your phone call system look like? How often you contact them, that kind of stuff. I have a sphere of influence, and I know how to influence my sphere. Now that was really 3 categories, right? System, marketing, and brand. So what is your, what is your sphere? Everybody pretty much has a sphere of influence, but how do you influence them? Okay, so sharing that link on your website is a great way to influence them, because here I have all these things. So, and then go from there. So we'll do 2 more and then we'll move on. So I have a defined real estate ecosystem, a team of service, business, and home related partners who add value to my clients' home ownership experience. Okay, so that's an ecosystem and it's a community system, right? So who do I have to help me? Who's in my community that helps me do that? So what are those local businesses that I can really reach out to and just kind of set that up? Okay. Okay, I'm going to mute everybody. So I include the Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Real Estate Lifestyle Planning Guide as a tool to consult with my sphere. So if you're using that, so for example, 1 would be I don't use it at all, and 4 would be I use it for each and every one of my clients. Okay, so that is a system and a marketing tool also. So you can kind of see, these are really checkoff points. So let me rephrase that. For each one of these, you're going to want to get each one of them into the 4 category, right? That's where we're looking, that's where we're aiming, that's what we want to do. So come up with the ones that you scored the lowest on. So you got a couple options. Take the one you scored the lowest on, make a decision. Do I want to do that myself, or am I going to hire somebody to do it for me? Right? So a lot of this stuff I can give away. A lot of it doesn't require me to do it. I can decide, okay, I'm going to spend $50 for somebody to do my profit and loss statement every month. So every month I'm just going to send them all my receipts. I'm going to send them my what came in for income, and they're going to tell me what that is. So if you do that, push that off, and you can automatically mark that a 4, because now you have a system for doing that. Okay, so that's an easy one. And then just kind of go down the line. Pick the ones that you really want to work on the most. A lot of these are what we call lead measures. So what a lead measure is, I do the activity and the payoff is going to be down the road. A lag measure is that payoff, right? So I set a goal of doing 20 units a year. I set this system up, I'm doing this system, this is what I track. And then at the end of the year, I know whether or not I hit my goal. So that's a lag goal, right? So now what we are planning on doing is for each one of these, we are going to start a podcast. So every week we're going to have a weekly 15-20-minute podcast on number 1 through 50. And we'll create a video that goes along with it that's going to help you with each one of these. So it will give you an idea. Now we're going to pull a lot of those resources from the IQ system, because that's really what the system is. How do you do this? What are the benefits of doing that? So on and so forth. That's what the IQ system is built around. So as we go through these, and I don't know, I mean, maybe every quarter you redo it. You retake your IQ, you take your benchmark, and then you move forward to see where you're at then. And then you just keep moving forward, okay? All right, so I don't know if that is helpful. Is that helpful? Okay, so in the chat, what questions do you have about the IQ system? Where do I begin with the IQ system? Well, the first thing you want to do is, so the question is, where do I begin with the IQ system? First thing is do your IQ assessment. Once you've done your IQ assessment, then you can kind of figure out where your next place is. The other thing I would do is go into the IQ system and try to break it. right? Just go in there and just play around, get squirrely with it, do everything you can and try and break it. Check everything out, see where you're going, all that good stuff, right? And then once you've done that, then start to trigger in onto what exactly you want to do. Join the chats too. The chats are really helpful. And then pick one item, right? Pick an item and just do it. So do the restaurant bingo, do the community videos, do the the car show if you want to go that deep into it, right? Do those kind of things and just get in there, right? You're not going to input or transfer your database to the IQ system. That's not what it's for, right? It's just basically a system for sharing information. Okay. Check for and start implementing the contact calendar SOI touches. I, again, would use my website for that. That's probably your best bet. Do your market trackers, your PIPs, and do your weekly event planners that are weekend event planners that are sent out from the marketing department. Okay. Cool. How much time should one devote to this compared to their taking care of your regular day-to-day business? Well, that's up to you, really. I mean, how much time should you spend on it? Because really, the IQ system it's part of your lead generation source, right? It's where you're going to go and get ideas to do your lead gen. The rule of thumb is you want to always do 3 hours of lead generation every single day. Okay, so do your 3 hours of lead gen. If you count this as your 3 hours, if you consider this generating leads, then that's when you do it. So we all set aside time to do our social media. We all set aside time to work on our websites. We all set aside time to work on our database. This is another good resource to do that, right? Where can I get ideas to kind of take it to the next level? What do I know is actually working, right? So I don't have to test out a system. The system's already there and functioning. So I can just steal it and roll on. So it just kind of depends on what you want to do and how you want to do it. Again, I would redo my assessment every quarter. I mean, once a quarter, I'd make sure that I've gone in and made adjustments. And remember, real estate is all about 2 things. 1, following a schedule, and 2, systems. So if you create those systems, once you've created them, you should never have to go back, right? You should never have to go in there and kind of figure out how to do it again. Now, we do want to go in and improve our systems, okay? So our rule of thumb here at our office is we work on 4 things at one time. So we have 4 pillars that we work on, our 4 lead generation sources and our SOI in our database. With those 4 systems, we pick one. We still have to do the other 3, but we pick one, master that one, still continue to do the other ones. Once we mastered it, then we move on to the next one, master that one. Once we master that, we move on, master that, move on. And then what typically happens is once we've gone down that road 3 or 4 times, then we'll go back to the first one and fine tune it, and then just keep doing that, right? Just keep fine tuning. And if you find a pillar that you don't like to use or you don't want to use, then ditch it and do another one. Then you'll have to remaster that one. So, okay. I don't want you to think that the IQ is work. It's not really work. It's more of an information source. It's not a database. It's not a CRM. It's not the Sage. Do we call it the Sage or we just call it Sage? Yeah, it's not the Sage. So it is one of those resources for you to go to get that information. And join the chat, because when you join the chat, you'll see a bunch of stuff come in and you could say, hey, I'm having a problem doing my car show. I can't get anybody to show up. You know what, or I can't get anybody to bring their cars. You know, when's the best time to do a car show, that kind of stuff. So you'll get that feedback from people who have already done it. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel, which is kind of where we're at. Okay. All right, any other questions? I only wanted this to be about 20 or 30 minutes because it wasn't a really big topic, although I really want everybody to get in there and really focus on playing with the system and do your IQ assessment. That's the first step. Okay, Karen says, I'm a strong real estate influencer. However, I am significantly lacking in my future influencer area. So I likely look for tasks or opportunities and strengthen my, okay, good. And that's nice. I mean, that gives you something to target, right? And again, you know, I know you're busy, Karen, so, right, you gotta figure out what you wanna do. And then if you don't wanna do it, pay somebody else to do it, right? Okay, so we really wanna stay away from those 20-hour, $20 an hour activities and really focus on the $400 an hour activities. Okay, so where can I access the IQ system? Very simple, go to your Berkshire Hathaway resource. Once you go to your resource, then it will look like this. I gotta get that box out of the way. It'll look like this. Once it looks like this, then you just click on the My Real Estate IQ, and that'll take you to the assessment. And you can do it as many times as you want. So just feel free to do it. And I would print it out, keep it, target your 5 items you're really gonna work on, and then get through those, okay? Which CRM do people like? That's a kind of a personal question, right? Which CRM do they like? It all depends on what you want to do, right? I mean, you know, for example, let's say Top Producer. Anybody out here use Top Producer? Nobody? Okay. Top Producer is a very huge program, and it used to be very, very popular. Now, if you think of Top Producer just like Excel, right? What percentage of Excel do we actually use? Well, it's probably 5%. And that's what happened with Top Producer. A lot of people were only using about 5% of it. So I don't care what system you use, just use a system. You know, of course, I'm going to steer you to your website. That for us is the best one. Because really what we're doing is market trackers, PIPs, weekly event planners, call your clients 4 times a year, right? I'm old school. 2 letters of your alphabet every week, print that out, start going down the list. That's how easy it is. Okay, so old school. So yeah, I mean, just think about what you want to accomplish, what your goal is. The rule of thumb is you got to touch people 33 times a year. And if you could touch them 33 times a year, 4 of those have to be a 2-way conversation about real estate, in person, you know, via Zoom, on the phone, texting is okay. And if you want to do Facebook messaging. So those are 6 ways to contact your clients 4 times a year. The other stuff is just a poke an eye, right? So I'm just poking you. I'm sending you a market tracker. I'm telling you what your zip code is doing in real estate. I'm sending you a PIP. I'm telling you what your neighborhood is doing, right? And then I'm telling you what's going on in the Puget Sound, and it's got my big photo on it. And then I'm just calling you 4 times a year. I mean, that's real estate in a nutshell. If you do those 4 things, you'll be a rock star. Okay, piece of cake.
Okay.
All right. Okay, anybody else?
Appreciate the classes.
Questions? What's that?
Appreciate the classes.
My pleasure. Okay, anybody else? Nope. All right, awesome. We'll see you on Monday, and we'll send out that invite shortly. Adios.